Yo, what's going on tonight? It's Tuesday night. My name's Messiah Rhodes.
And I'm Dr. Evil Genius, and this is Black Power Magic Hour episode 6, motherfuckers.
Oh, we're doing it. We still haven't been canceled yet. It's amazing. I mean, like, it's just like some like crazy stuff right now.
We're immune to canceling. They'll be like, he said something that was not PC. Cancel him. And I'm like, well, I said it. Yeah, I said it. What? Uncancelable, motherfucker.
So what's going on right now? I think for the virus coverage, or Jesse drops the virus cryon real quick. I think what's going on right now, if anyone tells you that they know what's going on with the coronavirus, don't listen to them. They're a fucking idiot. Because if you could play this clip right now, Jesse, literally, scientists are using computers to figure out this virus. So if you think you know what's going on, you don't. So Jesse, play this clip real quick.
Like many other research institutes around Europe, this one in Barcelona is busy finding the weak points of SARS-CoV-2, that's the virus that causes COVID-19, to eventually develop efficient therapies or vaccines. Molecular biologists here are dealing with a wide range of unknown challenges.
How do we think the virus is going to keep evolving? How important is its infectiousness in animal species close to us going to be? To what extent can one of these species become a long-term virus reservoir? How can we find or help to find new drugs that tackle COVID-19? How can we contribute to develop more efficient vaccines?
It's a bad time when the scientists are asking the same questions you're asking. So
given the volume and complexity of the questions,
listen to what you just asked. So
this supercomputer called Mare Nostrum, its fourth version can perform 11,000 trillion operations per second. The high-performance computer has already helped hundreds of researchers working in different areas,
11,000 trillion billion
and gravitational waves. It's also now helping to support research on SARS-CoV-2.
We're able to help researchers describe their problems, their questions in a fluid, easy, sequential way.
So, like, if scientists are asking the same question that, like I'm asking, you're asking, then we don't know what's going on with the coronavirus. They're trying to building size computers to figure it out. Then, it's going to be a while till we figure out this coronavirus. So we thought of that video. What's going on, Dr. Evil Genius?
Well, our brains work a little bit slower than the supercomputers. So I'll take whatever help that we can get outside of going to Africa and doing, basically the same level of testing that you would normally do on an animal and then doing it on Africans, like they were suggesting. The French doctors were suggesting, and that ended up coming to fruition anyway. So if we can get some help somewhere,
what happens. Yeah.
I would be happy with that.
So speaking of people who act like they know everything, if Jesse plays this clip real quick, they pretty much want to herd all our kids to the death. That's what's going on right now in America. We don't have no super.
They want the kids to bring the Rona back to you.
Yeah, they want to kill grandma real fast. Jesse needs to play this clip of the sharp-haired man from ABC World News. #.
Now to the debate over reopening schools, many set to start the fall semester next month. But is it safe as the pandemic rages? The CDC saying full classes and no distancing pose the highest risk. But President Trump is insisting students must be inside those buildings in the fall. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, the Trump administration insisting students return to school as the pandemic rages.
Kids need to be in school. They need to be learning. They need to be moving ahead.
You can't learn at home.
Open your schools.
The only way to think and learn is if they sit in this chair for 7 hours.
For reopening schools, which include face coverings and desks 6 feet apart.
No kid,
very tough and very impractical
things.
Today, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos says those guidelines are meant to be flexible.
Don't have to pay grandma Social Security if they're dead.
Suggest that kids being back in school
that's what they're trying to do.
To them.
But the CDC
now go on,
says
Timmy. Go back home to grandma. Make sure you cough in her face.
In-person classes pose the highest risk for COVID-19 spread.
Highest
Some parents
risk.
say with extensive precautions in place, in-person instruction could be a huge relief and essential to their children's learning.
Without that motivation piece, in their minds, they have no reason to do school. And that's true for a lot of kids.
Still, Virginia mother Catherine Smart warns how quickly the virus can spread through families.
I hear a lot of talk about how young people aren't really good vectors of the virus. Well, my family is one giant data point.
The high school teacher says her entire family was sick for a month after her 19-year-old son brought it home.
I think to put kids and teachers back into that environment is terrifying, especially since we might be able to rotate students, but we can't rotate faculty.
In Gila County, Arizona, Kimberly Bird, a beloved teacher of 30 years, died from the virus after catching it while teaching an online course in the same room as 2 other teachers. Their school said they followed every protocol and still were struck by the virus. Today, Secretary DeVos was pressed.
Real quick. So LaShonda, they said they're sending black and brown kids back to school first. Tucker Carlson mentioned it.
You know, they always got to be the guinea pigs, man. Always got to be the guinea pigs.
I mean, it's crazy that they're doing this to our children. I mean, I thought like
propaganda. I feel you. I think everybody's afraid to send their kids to school because not necessarily because the kids will get sick, because they are starting to see some pathology in children. They thought that the children were basically immune, but now they're starting to find that there are a whole host of
children are getting sick,
weird maladies that the kids are suffering. And then you got to think about the kids bringing it back home. And it's almost definite because you really think that kids are going to heed social distancing rules? They barely know how to wash their hands at all. Do you think they're going to leave their hands under the water for 30 seconds like they're supposed to? It's going to be a clusterfuck, guaranteed.
But Dr. Virginia, I just thought, like, remember Sandy Hook, the mass shooting when that crazy man walked into the kindergarten class? I just thought that was the bottom when it came to how we dealt with children in this country. But I guess that's not the bottom. That's not, we're hitting, you know, I guess that wasn't
Parkland.
The bottom. I know.
You know?
Yeah, I thought that was the bottom. Like letting kindergartens get murdered by AR-15. Like, but now we're seeing a new bottom with really hurting children into schools.
Wipe it on someone. Yep. Yep.
Kids do nastiest things. They do the nastiest things.
Kids do kid shit.
Yeah, they're gonna put their boogers in their food. I mean, it's gonna.
I'm telling you, the spitballs that are gonna happen. Can you imagine what's gonna happen when the kid that gets picked on starts threatening to cough on everybody?
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah,
that. They're probably going to bring the police into it. They're probably going to bring the police into it and beat that kid up. And that'll be another video we can watch. You know, like because it seemed to like to use the police to enforce, you know, quarantine COVID-19 stuff. So and not get. I mean, it's just ridiculous in this country right now.
Yeah, like everybody's in such a rush, and they're not learning the lessons. We had over 15,000 new cases from Saturday alone in Florida. We have 7 different municipalities where their hospitals are now overflowing. So you're watching shit gets worse, and your response is, well, we need to get the kids in school. Yeah.
Wow. Well, he called it terrorism in Twitch. But like, I guess we gotta put this together because like, okay, we're sending kids to school. So why are they sending kids to school? That's because remember there was supposed to be relief to small businesses, to workers. Remember there's supposed to be money coming to people. There's not. So parents have to go to work because there's no relief coming. We have to go to work. This is what's happening.
What about the parents that have been laid off and furloughed?
Yeah, no, they're gonna figure out. So Jesse needs to pull up this article right here from pretty much the grant money ran out for small businesses. So you see right here, the money that's supposed to go to small businesses like a measly 10. I mean, it's not measly, but compared to what companies are getting, $10,000. They're supposed to get $10,000, up to $10,000. That money's ran out for business owners. It's pretty crazy right now what's happening. Unemployment is going to run out in a few days. $600 unemployment. There's no bill has been passed yet to give another $1,200. So what
can I give a shout out to Engineer? Hold on a second. Let's give a shout out to Engineer in the Twitch chat. And this is the shit that I've been saying from the beginning. Isn't it funny how the stock market is back to an all-time high and they want more? We have the Bezoses add $22 billion to their wealth in 1 week, and the economy is in the fucking shitter. Where did they get $22 billion? That's what I want to know.
So we gotta play this other video, Jesse. Play this other video real quick. This is like some of the money. This is some of the ransacking that happened.
Face names stand out. Family businesses associated with some Trump administration officials did receive loans. Foremost Maritime, a shipping company run by Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao's family, received up to $500,000, though a DOT spokesman says that she is not affiliated with the business in any way and has no idea how they got the loan. The trucking company founded by Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue received up to $350,000. A spokesperson for USDA says that the loan was roughly $182,000, supported 27 jobs, and complies with all ethics rules. Separately, a media company, 2 hotels, and a school with backing from the Kushner family also received loans. Now, on Capitol Hill, access to BPP was bipartisan. A loan went to a winery in which Republican Devin Nunes has a stake, and a tech company that counts Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband Paul as an investor. Family businesses of 2 Oklahoma Republicans also received money, and the former employer of Democratic Senate candidate Cal Cunningham also got aid. Now, the advocacy groups who received aid raised eyebrows because of their critiques of the size and rollout of the stimulus. Grover Norquist's small government outfit got up to $350,000. Right-wing production outlets run by former House Speaker Newt Gingrich and Trump advisor David Bossie got loans, and left-leaning Media Matters and Better Markets got payouts too. Finally, among dozens of law firms listed were 3 smaller shops that employ President Trump's impeachment defense attorneys, Jay Sekulow, Eric Hirschman, and Robert Ray. Those firms got up to $14 million. Now, Bill, there are dozens of law firms, even more lobbying shops, and private schools with deep endowments and political ties that got money. There's simply too much to include in a minute of airtime.
It's too much to include. They gave out so much money. So much money is too much to talk about. But what about unemployed people? What about healthcare? What about bringing on these kids? It's not enough to talk. We can talk about that in 10 seconds.
You don't even need to go that far, though. The thing is, you don't even need to go that far. How about looking at the CARES Act that is supposed to help small businesses? We should be talking to a small business owner who has been following everything that has been going on with this, because we're going to have Louis Rossmann on in a couple minutes, and I remember I sent him a text message telling him that the Los Angeles Lakers, yes, the winningest
How much did it get?
Franchise in the history of the NBA, got money from the y'all are multi-billionaires. What do you need that loan for? What are you doing? And it was at that point you were just like, fuck it. I don't got anything else to say.
It's a spreadsheet leaked. What do you mean by spreadsheet leaked? Like there's like a spreadsheet of how these big Lakers, Shake Shack, Tesla, see all the money that they're sending money for basketballs. We need sparkling diamond encrusted basketballs. That's what we need.
That's what Electric Sway said in the I guess we need money for basketballs. Oh my God. I mean, it's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we're literally how many days are we till the $600 runs out for
July 31st. Yes, and the thing is, now they're talking about Congress going on another recess. Like, do these motherfuckers ever work? They make like $225,000 a year, and they spend 36 weeks out of the year lamping in the Hamptons or some shit. Like, the fuck?
Eating nice ice cream bars. I mean, easily to see this contrast. I mean, I can see. I just feel like. I don't know. I guess if you're rich and you rent into your house for 4 months and you're not near normal people, you probably think you're probably in a whole nother planet right now.
Magic Blue Melon is really heavy on the sarcasm. LA Lakers is a small business. You don't get it. They're struggling through this virus very heavily. Without that loan, they go bankrupt.
I know. Oh, someone just someone just posted a link of like the Treasury Department, pretty much with all of like all the all so-called small businesses that got that money. I want to click this link. It's like, it's crazy to just see this like outrageousness. So like the idea was just idea was like what was happening in Europe and stuff like that. It's pretty straightforward. Governments are giving small businesses money so they can keep their employees, even though the employees have to stay home, they keep paying them. That's the idea. They give small businesses money so they can keep paying people so they can stay home while we figure out while the supercomputers figure out COVID-19. This is like the utopian idea of what we want to happen, but it's not happening that way.
Sounds like some Ang Yang shit, man.
Yeah, exactly. We want people to give small businesses so they can stay in business. So right now, because really, we did an episode 2-3 weeks ago, and we showed that pretty much hundreds of thousands of small businesses has disappeared off the map over the past 3 months.
Yep. But a lot of them applied to get those loans, and they couldn't get it because Shake Shack was busy swindling their way to $20 million. So I don't know, man. Like when I saw those figures and I saw some of these other entities that took up so much of the money, and you know that these motherfuckers don't need the money, and you're like, oh, free money. I don't have to actually pay my employees because they don't want to pay their employees to begin with. But why do you think they try to keep why do you think they keep the wages so low?
Joanna from Facebook, I don't know if you think this is true, Dr. Virginius, but Joanna says that like she feels that none of the politician kids are going to go back to school.
Hell no, they ain't sending their kids back to school. Woo.
So I think
it's like whenever there's going to be another war, they want to send somebody to Afghanistan or Iraq. It's never the rich person's kids that go there.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
So Dr. Virginius, I think Louis is here. If you want to,
yeah, he's ready. He's ready to go. He's in the chat too. He's ready to go. He's got his fingers working in the chat.
Oh, what?
Motherfucking Louis Rossmann in the building. What's up, goody?
What's up?
How are you all doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
There are no fireworks going off behind me for once.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for agreeing.
I appreciate you for turning off the fireworks. Thank you for the show.
we turn off for a little bit.
I appreciate you for not letting people teach you how to set them off.
we need your fingers. You know.
We were curious about who was setting off the fireworks and why, so I decided to just walk outside and see where the fireworks were. And someone said, like, what are you doing here? And it's like, I want to set off some fireworks too. So they showed me how, and I actually set off like 1 or 2, and then I went back home.
How many of your fingers do you still have ownership of?
No prosthetics. They're all real.
Oh, okay, good. We don't got no robot fingers yet. Yeah.
I know Jason Pierre-Paul is really, really jealous of you. For those who don't know, he was a football player that blew off half of one of his hands, setting off fireworks like mere weeks after signing like a 9-figure contract.
Well, what position he's going to play?
He's like on the defensive line or some shit. So
holy shit,
he wasn't able to like really push against anybody because he was missing digits.
He's going to knock people away. Like that's the defense line right there.
Like get that half a hand off me. So, Mr. Rossmann, you as a small business owner, you applied for the CARES Act loans. Can you tell us what that process was like, and
super curious,
and what you noticed about other small businesses that used similar financial institutions that you used?
Yeah, sure. So
you didn't get $10 million?
I'll go to this from the very beginning. No, not that
I'm
way.
not sure okay. I will be sitting here doing this show right now if he got $10 million. I'm just saying.
So
I'd have something better than a T-shirt over the stain in my chair.
Yeah.
But yeah, so So I'll start from the beginning. So March 12th or 13th, I came back from lobbying in Maryland for the right to repair stuff, and I think you came by the store that day, and I remember saying, I'm going to try and buy up as many masks and alcohol as I can because I think stuff is going to get real. And
that's before
March
the
20th,
shutdown.
Yeah, that was 7 days before the shutdown. I figured, if everybody is going to be at work, they should wear a mask. Let's have I changed up the front counter of the store so that instead of having a counter right up by the front, there's a table. And then we're sitting like 6 to 12 feet away from that table. The customer has to go outside when we walk over to it. We changed a lot of that stuff up, or just like go back further up against where the gate area is. On March 20th, the pause order came out. So the pause order said, here are the essential businesses that can stay open. Here are the ones that can't. And I saw it said tech support for online services. And I honestly had no idea what that meant. I don't know if that applies to me. I don't really, do I support online services? If I support a MacBook that's been used for an online service, does that count or whatever? So I spoke with the staff and I said, I'm not sure if we're supposed to stay open given this article. And I understand if people don't feel comfortable coming to work. If you don't feel comfortable coming to work, I'll arrange to have you paid. But if everybody doesn't come to work, and I don't know when this ends, eventually there will just be no more company, because my payroll at that time ranged from like $15,000 to $20,000 a week. So that runs out pretty quickly if you don't have any income coming in. So
it's technology, but technology is an essential service, right? Technology, I feel like
it depends on where you are.
So they were destroying him on Reddit.
I was getting my ass kicked in, and a lot of these people deleted the post. I have screenshots of it saying, like, this guy's staying open so that people can have their iPhone fixed. It's like, people that have jobs that are working from home are coming here because their only computer's destroyed. Yeah, I mean, I fix like one iPhone every 5 days. That's not really much of what we do. But like technology support for online services is vague. In some states, IT stuff stayed open. In some states, repair shops did, but IT didn't. In some areas, IT places were being shut down, but the repair shops were allowed open. So depending on what state you're in, this is really hit or miss, and depending on who's enforcing it. So it wound up being that out of the staff, only a few people decided to stay home. They were covered, and the people that showed up, worked. I did the front counter plus shipping plus my normal job, since the front counter and the shipping person weren't here. On April 2nd, I remember April 1st, I think, was when I read the articles on the PPP program being announced, which I think is a fine date for it, April 1st. And then April 2nd, I see the law.
There's a joke the whole time.
Yeah, at that point, Steve Mnuchin had said something along the lines of, within 24 to 48 hours, we will be giving out funds. And then I go to chase.com, and the page on their site is not even an application. It's literally a page that's just, we're not giving this out yet. We're not participating yet. Just like, fuck off, go away. It's hysterical. Like, if you look at archive.org screenshots.
We'll call you.
Yeah, don't call us, we'll call you, like every job interview I've ever had. Then on April 3rd and 4th, Bank of America has on their website, okay, we're going to pay out, but we're only going to pay out to clients. We're not going to accept applications unless you have an existing loan. So if you have a savings account at Bank of America, or a business savings or a business checking, you can't apply even if you're a small business. You can only apply if you have a loan out. The reason to do that is quite simple. The bank does not want their clients who owe them money to go away empty-handed. So if I loan you $500,000 and the economy crashes, and I have the ability to direct other people's money to anybody I want, the first people I'm going to want to get paid back are the people that owe me money, because that's really my money, not even theirs. So Bank of America got called out on April 3rd or 4th for saying, we are only going to loan this money out to businesses that already have loans with us, which is insane. Then around April 5th, they immediately rescinded it. Even Marco Rubio said, that's not really what this bill said. That's not what you're supposed to. Like, even Republicans were saying, chill. This is not what this bill was for.
It's like a buy one, get one free scam they're running with loans.
So like they were using it to ensure that all of their, like they wanted to bail out themselves first and then let everybody else, we'll get to you when we get to you. Let's make sure
not
the clients that owe us money.
Fees that they charged to lend out money that was never theirs to lend out from the beginning. This is taxpayer money. So they
between 1%
took
and 5%.
a cut of money that was never theirs. Because the thing is, you take the fees because you're taking risk when you give out these loans. What risk are you taking if you're being handed the money from the taxpayer and then you're going to charge the taxpayer to get the money that they gave to you to distribute to them?
Well, no, the 1 to 5%. I think it believed if it was below a certain amount of money, I think it was like below a few 100,000, they got 5%. Above a few 100,000, they got 1%. That was for vetting, but we're going to get to that later because they did the hard work of vetting and ensuring that only the businesses that should be getting the loans get the loan. I don't throw up in your mouth. We'll get to that later. On April 7th, they issued. There was a bunch of very vague rules. There were a bunch of very vague rules listed. Yeah, very hard vetting. So there were certain rules regarding who is allowed to. How do you calculate this? So you calculate it based on your company payroll. So now the trade association for certified public accountants said, we assume that this includes payroll tax because it says payroll cost. A part of my payroll cost is my tax. So if you pay for something at a store and they include 8% or whatever tax, that's part of your cost, what comes out of your pocket. You assume when they say cost, that's what they mean. So they came after I applied, after Chase finally got their website together and I went through and I applied for my loan, they changed the rule and issued a guidance. Oh yeah, by the way, you know how the CPAs assumed that this covered your payroll plus payroll taxes? It doesn't. It only covers your payroll, not with payroll taxes. So at that point, I lost my shit. I thought, wait, so if you fill out the application wrong, they will deny you. But you can't fill it out properly because they didn't give you the directions on how to do it properly when the program came out. And you're encouraged to fill it out as soon as possible so that you're not at the end of the line. I just pulled out my hair at that point. On April 16th, I saw that it was going to Ruth's Chris, several publicly traded companies at the exact same time that it went broke. So to be clear, if you're a publicly traded company, if you're Ruth's Chris, if you're the LA Lakers, one of the many small businesses that the banks were earning their vetting fees for, getting this part of this program.
Got some money too. Jared Kushner,
he's a small business.
He's definitely a small business.
Kind of short.
He sells lemonade. So.
Yeah. So here's the thing: you can't even apologize. So let's say you're Ruth's Chris and you give money back in the program. If I steal money out of your house the day before rent is due, but then I say I'm sorry and I return the money that I stole from you, you have it back. If you took money from the Paycheck Protection Program, even if you repaid the loan and gave it back, that doesn't automatically now go back into the pool that then gets appropriated to new small businesses. That has to be reappropriated by government at the time frame that government typically works at to solve anything, which.
But a Magic Blue Melon says they don't believe the government doesn't have the infrastructure to do it themselves in theory when it comes to like handing out the money. That's why they gave the money to the banks. That's what I think in Twitch. That's what he believes. Do you think that's true that the government can't have the infrastructure to do this kind of thing? Giving out loans?
The basic thing is the government doesn't have to care. At the least with the bank, if you're giving them 1 or 5% of each loan, again, I'm not saying that I'm happy that banks made billions of dollars for doing virtually nothing. I'm not happy with it. But the incentive is there to get the money to the people. So one instance, my business changed addresses. I have a business license that costs about $350. I have 3 of them. I applied for my change of address in November when I leased my new space. In February, my license had still not arrived yet. Like this is a change of address, and I paid $350. Sometime around mid February or late February, I think, I got a piece of paper in the mail, printed on 8.5-inch by 11 recycled printer paper, ripped with my new license with my new address. Like even when you pay the government to do something, they are still insanely slow. So if we were waiting for the government to do it, it probably still wouldn't be done. Like but that's. It sucks that the infrastructure there is as bad as it is. I believe that the banks would be able to do it quicker. It's just the cost of that is they're going to take their own cut. They're going to self-deal. And I don't think there was the amount of oversight required to make sure that this kind of garbage didn't happen because they were rushing shit out the door as quickly as possible.
I just feel like, this country in the past has done that we built millions of tanks and millions of destroyer ships, all kinds of made World War II stuff, and I feel like when this stuff, all you needed to do is just get people's addresses right and their bank account numbers. I don't know. I just feel like the scale of what needed to be done is way less than what has happened in American history when it comes to mobilizing and fixing things during a major crisis. And I feel like we had the laziest reaction to a major crisis. I don't know if you felt right. That way. Yeah,
you're right. But at the same time, in World War II,
not just being lazy. I mean, you have actual citizens who are trying to work against the spread of the virus. So it's one thing to just kind of be lazy and not want to do everything that is necessary. It's quite another to hold Rona parties to see, how much we can spread the virus. So we've got so many things working against us actually getting back on our feet. it really just is no surprise that we're in the clusterfuck we're in right now.
In World War II, that we definitely were able to get a lot done very quickly in a time of war when we needed it. But also a lot of that was we had oversight over private corporations. So I think we use some act, and I'm not a large World War II history buff. I fix math, so correct me when I'm wrong. But we had private companies doing that, but we had public servants overseeing the private companies and managing them to make sure that they did not give millions of dollars to the LA fucking Lakers. That's the part that was April 27th.
We didn't hear stories about the Yankees getting millions of dollars in World War II. We didn't hear stories about the Yankees the Dodgers getting tons of money in World War II. You heard about the right companies doing what they needed to do. Besides Ford, which is another story because he loved Hitler. But when it comes to like the other industrial stuff, I feel like that's pretty right. The oversight. When we had Franklin Roosevelt, there's a whole different time. So now we have Trump, who's not Franklin Roosevelt, So
there was not a lot of oversight there, and I remember when I had an issue with importing parts. I remember looking on the government's website, seeing that the parts I wanted to import had no customs fees. I imported them; they had a fee, and the person who was supposed to be the director of CBP was an interim director, and when he stepped away, there was nobody to replace him. So like there was no oversight to ensure that site was updated, so that I even know what products have tariffs. And I am kind of curious if something similar happened here, where there was no oversight for something like this, because what I really want to know is how many people were in the decision-making process for the LA Lakers being called a small business, and like, did they have to sign their name to it? Did they have to? Because there's no human being alive in America that thinks that doesn't know that the LA Lakers probably have more money than them or the average small business. It's such a brand name. I don't follow sports at all. Like I suck at sports.
Boy, everybody knows who the fucking Lakers are.
Yeah, like I can't name all the players, but I can tell you they have more money than the average small business. I mean, I know that they're not a deli. I don't know what a basketball player's salary is. I know it's high enough that that having your hands out.
They're not a fishing boat company.
Yeah, and like for them to. It's such a crisis and it's also who on the team applied, like who on their team thought in a time of rising income inequality, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, believing that this is a problem or not, to understand that we're in a time where socialists are being elected to positions in Congress, that this is an issue that people care about, to understand that we are a basketball team, well perceived for people getting paid millions of dollars. And to understand that you're applying for this thing that's designed for like a small bodega or a haircut place, do you not understand the PR backlash that's going to result from that? Do you not have the basic sense to go, maybe we should just go to every basketball player and go, hey, like, the guy that cleans the locker rooms and all that stuff? Listen, this year sucks, and I'm truly sorry, but like, can we come up with a way amongst ourselves to figure out how we're going to pay them? Because you have to keep in mind, the PPP program, this does not cover people that make over $100K a year. So anybody that's dribbling a basketball, they're not getting paid from this. This program is meant for the people all the support staff that nobody ever sees that keep a team like the Lakers running. But could you not, as...
There was, I remember, I think there were players, even early on in the pandemic, players were actually going out of pocket to pay people on their teams. I remember that was happening even before the PvP stuff happening. Players were going out of pocket to pay the stadium workers, like not the owners. And that was like a bad sign right there when you saw the players were doing that and not the owners, So
yeah, like I don't even know how much the owners get versus the players get, because again, I don't know much about sports. If the owner gets way more than the players, then I'll include it.
It's a 53-47 split revenue. The owners get 53%. But do you know the person that thought it was a good idea for them to ask for that loan? The same people that think it's a good idea to use almost half of the fucking coronavirus tests that we have and then using them on athletes. The UFC is doing it on Fight Island, where they use 8,000 tests to hold 4 or 5 events on an island somewhere. And they're testing the same people over and over again. I think one fighter said that he's been tested 20 times. One person testing negative 20 times when we don't have enough tests for regular ass people. And I love the UFC and I love mixed martial arts and I love my sports, but it is really fucking ridiculous that we have all of these, rich people who are just basically hogging up all of the tests so that they can play a game while people are fucking miserable and struggling, stuck in their houses or about to be evicted from their houses.
I'm not even mad about the fact that rich people are using the test. What I'm more mad about is the fact that when Alex Azar went to Trump and said, like, listen, give me $2 billion. This is not gonna go very well. I'd like, for testing, mass equipment, all that. And I think he got somewhere around 500 million. So he got about 25% of what he asked for. I think it was like somewhere between 20 or 25% of what he asked for. And if he had gotten what he had actually asked for, maybe we'd have 4 times the testing that we do now. We'd have more testing early on. And we wouldn't even have an issue where when someone shows up on Joe Rogan's show and they figure out that he gets test, that it's a trending Twitter hashtag, people are pissed off at Joe Rogan because he gets a test, because everybody would have a test. We didn't have that early on, and people within the administration wanted that to happen, and it was no.
I mean, I think the NBA players in their bubble dome, they have like special rings and stuff like that. They have like the most advanced, coronavirus detection stuff that normal people probably don't even know exists. This is crazy to see the difference at this moment as we approach another wave, or maybe this is the first wave as it's getting bigger. I don't think even
extending.
People call this the second wave. This is not even a second wave. It's like the longer first wave, But you dropped something like earlier about tech that I clung to, about the fact that like he was able to, before the pandemic, I guess some regulation allowed you to it was harder to get some technology than what was that you said about the tariffs when it comes to like getting certain parts?
Oh, yeah, Trump and his trade war with China. So there's a 25 to 30% tariff on certain goods. So I wanted to know what they were so that I could price stuff accordingly and also see what, if they applied to what I was ordering. I was buying everybody asked, what kind of microscope do you use? Because the camera looks better than mine. And it's discontinued in America. So I bought them where I got them from in China, and I imported them. And I got hit with a 25% tariff when I got them. I wasn't even complaining about the fact that there was a tariff as a result of the trade war. What bothered me is that Trump says I'm going to run the country like a business, but if I have a business and I have to have prices listed on my website, and I can't charge you something different than what I quote. And if I make a mistake and my website misquotes you, then I eat it. And on 2 separate .gov websites for the tariff code for the microscopes that I imported, it said no tariff. And then I got them, and then I was hit with a 25% tariff. I had to find out that tariff existed from a private law firm's scanned PDF. It wasn't on the government's website, and the person that runs that part of the government he was an interim director. It's kind of like a substitute teacher. And when he left, somebody didn't fill the role immediately. And this is the kind of stuff that falls through the cracks.
So do you know how like giant companies like Apple and stuff have been dealing with these tariff situations, or are they just like in China? They're not even going anywhere with this stuff. Like how are they?
I think Tim Cook is virtue signaling by pretending that he's assembling things in Texas, like by having a small number of products put together, like the easiest stuff, like a desktop, where all the parts are made somewhere else. We're just going to assemble it in Texas. Say that we're making stuff here to make Trump happy, so he has his photo up, and maybe get less tariffs on certain items. That's what I think is happening. But now the other thing that's the best part about the tariff situation, you're allowed to apply for an exemption, right? So I could have applied for an exemption, but you can only apply for an exemption a certain amount of time after the tariff is created. So let's say that you're the incumbent, you're a big business. Let's say you're Amazon, and you've been selling microscopes this whole time. The moment Trump announces a tariff, you can apply for an exemption and get it. But if I come as a newcomer and I realize the microscopes that you're selling on amscope.com, they have a blurry camera port. Everybody's image is going to be blurry. I can sell a better one if I just spend an extra $10 on the right thing. I'm going to sell with you and compete with you. I can't apply for the exemption because you can only apply for the exemption within a certain time window after the tariff is announced. So the people who are the incumbents don't pay the tariff, but the people who are trying to compete with the incumbents do pay a tariff, meaning that the incumbents are always going to have an advantage. It's absolutely, there's no excuse for it.
This feels like it was a rough space for small businesses even before the pandemic in some ways.
That's why the lobbyists get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, in some ways it sucks, in some ways it's good. Like I used the tax cut I anticipated in 2017 to hire someone who wound up becoming one of my best employees, and that's great. And then there's when I import stuff, I'm being charged tariffs that my competitors are not being charged, that I don't even know I'm going to be charged because the person in charge of updating that website doesn't have a job. It's like, and there's a lot of stuff where just basic management would have would have prevented it. Again, even testing, if someone comes to me and says, I need $5,000 for this tool, or we're not going to be able to do our jobs anymore, I look at the company budget. I look at the fact that you're a top manager that's qualified, and I'll just say, okay, we'll find a way to make $5,000 for it. I don't say, here's $1,000, make it work, and then say I'm not responsible for it a few months later when shit hits the fan, which is what seems to have happened here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to use that as a segue. We talked about the lobbyists, and we talked about you being able to do your job. You're known as one of the foremost voices on planet Earth for the right to repair movement. And it's something that a lot of people don't really know too much about, with a lot of the protests that are going on for various reasons. A lot of people don't really understand that there is a fight going on for the right to do what you will with the things that you buy, the things that you purchase, that you should have the right to do whatever you see fit. Can you talk to us a little bit about the right to repair movement and why you thought it was a worthy cause to take up?
Yeah, the concept of right to repair is that, let's say 50 to 70 years ago, when you purchase something, it would come with schematics and diagrams that tell you how to fix it. If you need a part, you can go to a store to buy it. If the store didn't have it, you could ask the company where to get it, and they would tell you where to order it from. And that has changed entirely. Schematics are not shared. If you share them in any way or they ever get out, the person who allowed the leak can be prosecuted or fired. They will have it taken down using copyright and trademark law. And also, the companies like Apple will make exclusivity agreements, to my understanding, with companies like Intersil that make the charging chips. So let's say your MacBook stops charging. I can't just go to Mouser.com or Radio Shack and buy a charge chip and fix and replace the $10 broken chip. Because the company that makes the chip is not allowed to sell to me. They're not allowed to sell to anybody unless Apple says it's okay to sell to them, which means that your only option is to go to the manufacturer and spend $1,500 to get that item fixed, rather than have a choice of who to go to. And this is something that's affecting people in all fields. It's not just even laptops and cell phones. There's a big push in Nebraska. There was a Republican, Lydia Brash, in a very red district that sponsored a right to repair bill because a lot of the farmers in that district were being locked out of being able to fix their own tractors. It was an article with L. Ekman from the Marine Corps in the New York Times because they weren't able to fix generators because they're not allowed to do certain service outside of warranty. And if you're in if you're deployed somewhere in a war zone, you don't have time to ask the manufacturer to fix the generator under warranty, because they're probably not going to go out there into the war zone and get bombed fixing your fucking generator. What I do is anytime these bills are introduced, I go from state to state, and I'll speak at the legislatures, and I'll just try to combat the garbage that most lobbyists say. I, like most people, am very cynical when it comes to politics. I believe it's a complete and utter waste of time. I don't think it's going to actually create progress and change. That changed in 2015. I was speaking to an assembly person and a senator, and they said, well, the opposition lobbyist said that if you replace a component on this MacBook laptop motherboard, you're changing that to a PC. It's no longer a MacBook. And then you're not telling your customer that you converted it to a PC.
Oh my God.
And now you're misrepresenting what you're doing. And I said, I think I had an aneurysm. I don't know.
This is a problem now. I remember you can throw like a Mac chip into a PC, and you can dual boot between a Mac and a PC if you want to go crazy like that.
Yeah.
Now
Hackintosh.
you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, the senator told me. Yeah, the argument was that if you have a MacBook, if you have a laptop, and I fix it the way that I fix them, I've converted your MacBook into a PC. I don't tell you that I did that. And that's fraud to the customer. So that's why this shouldn't exist. And I lost my shit. I don't know exactly what I did in that moment. It's kind of like when you have a blackout of rage. No, it's like a blackout of rage, or if you get way too drunk and you don't remember what happened the last day. I lost my mind. And then when I woke up from that, I remember saying, I just had a curiosity, why did you believe that? And I didn't care.
Did he
I
also
lost
think that you installed TikTok on the machines back in 2015?
Oh yeah, no. In 2020, there was this one lobbyist that said we installed TikTok on people's phones when we fixed them, which is absolute crap. Because in order to install an app, I need a passcode, and I don't. And customers have the right to not give me the passcode to their phone. Yeah, I don't do that. I asked the politician, why'd you believe that? And this is what ended my cynicism. He said, well, they showed up when this issue arose, and no one else showed up. I don't understand how this stuff works. I'm like, oh, I'm over. He wasn't trying to bring up an ageism argument. He was being very clear and real with me. He says, like, I'm over 70 years old. They're talking to me about technology. They showed up. You didn't. So nobody was there to refute the argument. Now that you showed up, I know. And I got a co-sponsor on the bill. And that really changed it for me, is realizing that so many people have become so cynical with regards to politics that they can make arguments that are that bad. Because think about it, if you're a UFC fighter and every single time you show up to the fight, you're the only one in the ring, you may start working out less because you're automatically the champion because there's nobody else there. So
start eating chicken wings for the main event.
No, really. No, you don't have to train. Maybe you just eat some more chocolate and ice cream and cookies all day, because you don't have to care, because there's not someone else there. And what I notice is that since everybody has become so cynical regarding this, they believe the government is so corrupt, they believe there's no point in trying with regards to anything, that the people who actually do show up, when there's no opposition to their points, they can make up whatever shit they want, and it just goes. And that's what was happening. So I made a commitment at that point. I'm going to show up at every one of these. And if it goes well, it goes well. If I get humiliated or laughed at, I get humiliated or laughed at, but at least I can say that I did something. And I started doing that when I had, I believe, 2,000 subscribers on YouTube and posting them. Some of them went really well. I had politicians in Washington that said, I had my Xbox. When I tried to have my Xbox fixed, they deleted my data. It took forever. It wasn't at a great cost. And, why can't I fix my own Xbox? And I was like, yeah. And then I went to Nebraska and I heard people like Ernie Chambers read the bill and then say, here's what you should do. Strike all contents from the bill and write better luck next year, and then start laughing at it. And, I felt bad that I took off a few days from work and paid for a hotel and traveled to Nebraska with all my recording equipment to record a dude laughing at me. But, I'd rather have done that and than have done nothing.
Yeah, it's really dope that you have this experience with bureaucracy in the government, because people just get burnt out just like walking through the door in City Hall sometimes, and you're able to like take it to the finish line when it's something important too, because I think me and Dr. Genius have done IT work in some degree over the past few years, and I've kind of seen like how systems have slowly become more closed. First it was like the cloud, put your stuff in the cloud. Now it's like your laptop has no ports. Now it's like you can't even open your computer anymore. It's like the slow kind of
can't even replace a goddamn battery in a cell phone anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I remember early on iPhone, at least you can jailbreak your iPhone and put weird apps on it. You used to have that kind of freedom in the early days. Now it's just like before. Now you have what you have. There's nothing you can do about it.
They're not putting software. They're not putting software on the MacBooks, so that if you replace a component, the exact same component from one MacBook to another, and it doesn't recognize it, it basically bricks the entire system.
Well, so far, this has not been specifically activated. However, they do have the potential to activate it. In Apple's own documentation, it says with any machine with a T2 chip, if you replace certain components, you need to run their tool on it. And if you don't run it, it's not considered fixed. And the technology does exist to be able to tell if parts are serialized. With iPhones, what they're doing is they're disabling certain features if they notice that the serials are not matched. So let's say you have one of the newest iPhones. You could take the screen. You could buy 2 iPhones at the Apple Store. You could take the screen from this one and put it in this one, and certain features of the screen like True Tone won't work. This is worrisome because it's not bothering to tell that it's a counterfeit. Because if it was saying, listen, this part is a counterfeit, I don't know how this thing is calibrated, so I'm not going to have my color calibration feature, fine. I disagree with you there. Let the customer choose if they want to have it on, but I get it. But the fact that it's implemented in this lazy fashion where it just says, this is not the original, I'm not going to work, is quite scary. They're doing it with battery health, and I really would not be surprised if a few generations down the line, it just won't work at all unless you have it done at the store. It's a slow drift. It's like a frog slowly burning in water, and people just keep accepting.
I'm not sure if it's the entire European Union or certain countries, but I think Apple just lost a lawsuit over there because of pretty much they've been throttling iPhones. They slow down iPhones, and I guess someone finally caught in their bullshit, and everyone's getting $25 somewhere because of it. But like, so those kind of lawsuits are happening, which is kind of.
I'm definitely gonna get my $25. I'm broke.
So that kind of stuff is happening. You know, actively that like this planned obsolescence, which is kind of like you always thought it was conspiracy theory. Like, why would they want something I paid mad money for to fall apart? And I guess they kind of do. They do. You know, they purposely slow things down.
They got quarterly earnings that they have to answer for, and if they give you a device that works for 6 years, then what is the incentive for you to buy another one? There isn't.
I think culture influences policy and policy influences culture. And I think Apple now has the culture as a company. They don't want they don't want these unsophisticated people opening their devices and destroying them and mucking them up and changing the standards of quality. Their arguments are usually, people won't know if an independent opens it and they destroy it, they'll blame Apple. They're not going to blame the independent. They don't want any of the devices out there ever to have their brand name on it if someone else fucked with it. I think it could have started with, how to put this? When it comes to any conspiracy, there have to be numerous motives that all coincide so that the conspiracy is never said out loud. Because if people are actually getting in a room and saying out loud, smoking their cigars, let's make sure no one can fix their stuff anymore, at some point, someone's going to blow the whistle on that, even if they are making money from it, because there's probably more money or attention to be made from blowing the whistle on it. But if they know, well, we want to make sure we care about quality. You can say that we care about quality. We care about authorized repair. We care about not being sued because people think the stuff is dangerous. And all of them know at the same time that these practices are going to increase people's likelihood of buying a new one. And they see that their sales are going downhill because Apple sales with the new iPhones. They're charging more money because they're making less sales. It all kind of comes together. So they don't really have to say the quiet part out loud, which is we don't want independent repair shops taking our money. And honestly, regardless of what their philosophy or culture actually is there, it's accomplishing the exact same thing, which is that if your machine stops charging, I can't buy a charging tip to replace it.
It reminds me of the CBC investigative report that they did a couple of years ago, where they sent the journalist to New York to go to an independent repair tech, and they wanted to know, why were they being charged $1,200? Did you hear about that, Louis?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. There was a much buffer person than me who probably didn't have to go through a 4-month quarantine that was on that video. I barely recognized.
No, I just shared the $25 thing to Twitch. See if our audience can pick up the $25.
Class action lawsuits are such a cancer. I have all these little checks in my refrigerator for like $1 or 7 cents or $3. It only makes the lawyers rich. But yeah, CBC contacted me, and here's what pisses me off. A lot of people in our
in the chat, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I politely object, but there's in the CBC News piece, a lot of people said that piece is biased. That's just they're going to an Apple hater. No, CBC
said they got a 4-pack of Red Bull for $25.
Oh, that's a good deal.
That's an expensive caffeine hit, man.
The CBC News originally called me up and said we'd like to do a piece on how Apple is bad with upgrades. And I said, well, that sounds terrible. And they said, why? Don't you not like Apple? And I said, yeah, but you've come to the conclusion and now you want to do a piece on it. That's not fair. How about we do this? That's boring. You take a computer that doesn't work. You bring it to Apple, you record what they say. You bring it to me, you record what I say, and the piece will write itself. And then there was what if? And I'm like, no, what if? Find a broken machine, be fair, bring it there, record what they say, bring it here, record what I say. And what they did is they brought a machine to Apple where a pin was bent in a display cable, likely from someone trying to fix it themselves and screwing it up because they couldn't plug it in right. The Apple store said about $1,200 to $2,000, and I showed them, and they said it was water damage. I went over the motherboard with a microscope. There was no water damage. I see that there's a pin bent in the screen connector. I move it back into place. I plug it in, and it works. And I tell them, like, if it was a proper fix of replacing a screen cable, $150. If they're okay with the not perfect fix of me bending something, free. And that was the piece. And the thing is, it's one thing if you realize that that's happening, like if you get called out on it and you change. But the part where I blame them and I stopped saying that it's just them being stupid or them not paying attention is that piece came out 2 years ago and nothing has changed at how they do business.
Because they're too big to fail. Like they're like, one expose is not going to sway their hardcore user base.
No, what aggravates me the most is go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No, go ahead.
The thing that pisses me off the most here is that the people who are the most angry at people like me when that piece comes out are the people that would actually benefit if the Apple Store were a bit more honest. So the people like, when I'm saying they're trying to charge you $1,200 to $2,000 because they train their employees so bad they can't tell when a pin is bent or they can't tell basic troubleshooting that I could teach a receptionist in the first week, that's going to cost you money. I don't own Apple products. It's not going to affect me in the same way that it's going to affect you. And if they start doing a better job with their service, then there's no need to go to people like me anymore, and I go bankrupt. And the people who were the most gung-ho that piece was a terrible piece were the people that would have the most to gain from them changing. And it also drives me nuts that they'll say, well, that's a terribly biased piece. When CBC came to me, the premise that they came to me under I thought was biased, and I said, no, let's just do something that's actually fair. Right. Bring them a broken machine, bring me in and re-record it. And the fact that they sucked that bad, that's not on me, because I came up with a fair premise. I came up with a fair idea for the piece. The fact that Apple failed as badly as they did, that's not on me.
What's what really fucks me up about that situation is that you gave Apple all of the rope to hang themselves, because you said, hey, CBC, just go get a quote from them and then bring that exact same machine to me. And I almost guarantee you that it'll be something that I can do for low cost. And they're not even going to make the effort. And then they made you look like a prophet. It wasn't that you tricked them into doing anything. You just let them be themselves.
I was so scared I was going to open that machine and it was going to be like missing PM sleep S4. It's something that I can't solve and that I'm going to look like an idiot in front of like 10 or 40 million viewers that CBC, the national piece, has. And like when I opened it up and it was a screen thing, I'm like, you fucking... Because I was really prepared to look like an idiot. I was prepared to have some sort of unfixable, miserable problem when I opened it. But then I remembered that, it's Apple.
So I just want to switch over because I feel like I started off as a PC person. I think most of my childhood, teenage years, early 20s, I was a PC person, and I got lazy, and I went to Mac, and now it feels like now I'm like.
Is that why the bit rate is so bad on your feed right now?
Yeah, it's terrible. I'm like
because I'm on a PC right now.
Exactly. So I want to switch up with the question. I want to switch up with the question because this is like. We're seeing it right now in real time in this live stream. So because are people going to have what kind of repairs do people have borderline PC supercomputers at their home right now? What's happening with the PC world, when it comes to adaptability and I feels like it's just leaps and bounds when it comes to Mac right now,
Well, the reason that a lot of people like Apple products is because for a very long time, many PC companies produced absolute shit. Like the thing is, when people will say, well, you point out all these Apple design flaws. What about Acer? What about Toshiba? Yeah, and it's when someone buys a $300 Acer or a $300 Toshiba, they know they're getting a piece of shit. They know it's a piece of shit. They know the support is going to be shit. They know the experience is going to be shit because they paid $300. When someone buys a $2,000 or $4,000 Apple product, and they see that they have this nice fancy schmancy store and they have these nice, based in America customer support reps, and it's nice and made in metal, made of this aluminum and metal, and it's, it's not cheap plastic. There's this expectation of quality that doesn't exist.
Right.
There's this idea that you're getting a premium product. So when it comes to a cheap HP, we know there's shit. Everybody, it's a piece of crap. When you look at these $300 or $400 machines in Best Buy that fall apart, the edges fall apart, all that, you're getting a piece of crap. But with Apple, people think that there's this genuine premium and quality that in many ways is just not there. Like for every single year for the past 10 years, there's been a major design flaw in that product that is specific to them and not to virtually any other manufacturer. In 2016 through 18, there were manufacturing machines that you could not open and close. If you open and close it enough times, this cable just dies because they didn't make it long enough, and it just breaks. It's they said, well, we don't know of a problem with that. But when you actually take the machine apart and you measure it, why did you make the cable longer in the newer year if it wasn't too short in the previous year? It's just they do something stupid every single year.
Yeah, I had the last like MacBook Pro 17-inch from 2011, and pretty much they canceled that whole line because pretty much all the graphics cards were a recall. Like I had to return my laptop to Apple to get it fixed after a few years because all the graphics cards were mass failure of all the graphics cards. So they stopped making the 17-inch for like years.
Yeah.
So it's like that kind of yeah.
They recalled it in April or May of 2015, but those were failing in 2013, 14, and like the problem is if they're so consumer friendly, why do they have to get sued multiple times before they will actually acknowledge something as an issue? And many of those people, what they were doing is that firstly, in 2008 they had the exact same problem. So what they would do is they would have a program that they would run to see if the GPU failed. However, on those machines, it wouldn't be able to boot if the GPU failed. So we need to run this program to see if you're eligible. Oh, your computer doesn't turn on, so it's not eligible. But it's not turning on because the GPU failed. But the GPU, but I can't confirm it. It was like there's always this runaround, and it's a really nice, genuinely fancy store. But at the end of the day, the support that you get there is not a premium, and a lot of people believe there's a premium there when there isn't.
And
I'll give you
the PCs
I'll give you an example
coming forward for the COVID-19 too.
I'm gonna give you an example of what Apple does. The last time, and I swear this is the last time that I went to the Apple store, my Apple Pencil stopped working the way it was supposed to. So when I went there, one of their methods for troubleshooting was they wanted me to erase all of the settings on my iPad, and that was supposed to fix my pencil. And then they had to admit that, the pencil was dead and that was it. But then I lost a bunch of shit on my iPad. Like, what the fuck? Why do I need to erase shit on my iPad to see if the fucking pencil worked? Like that was the kind of support that I got.
When someone says wipe to factory, third-party repair, or authorized, like 90% of the time, that is code for I don't know what's wrong with it, but I don't want to say I don't know because I don't want to look like an idiot. So just erase it, because technically it could be a solution, but they know you don't want to do it.
Said you're holding it wrong. Oh shit!
Yeah. So if you tell someone that it's like, well, even though it may be you're not going to want to erase it because that's a pain in the ass. But now we can say that the ball is in your court. It's your problem now because you didn't want to do it. And the other thing is with people working from home, since you asked, like, how is that like now with COVID? Way more people are breaking shit than ever before. Like my business hit a plateau in May and then another one in June. And I thought, the economy is absolutely destroyed. Where is all this coming from? And then most of the people coming in, they're working, they have to work from home. Usually it would be their IT department would fix whatever it is they had in their office. Now they are their own IT department and they have to fix their stuff in their home. And they're doing stuff like, let me put my water right next to my keyboard and like the cat comes by and whoops. And there is a lot of that. And people have been showing up like way more than they were before. There was actually the one story that hit me the most was there's this one woman who was at least 70 years old. She had the N95 mask, the face shield, goggles, all that stuff on. And she shows up to bring a machine for data recovery because she spilled something on it. And I said, like, just out of curiosity, I realize this is an inappropriate question. It's just, what's caused you to come down here? Because I'm getting emails out the wazoo. There's at least 3 posts on Reddit r/coronavirus, some of which have been deleted, about how this piece of shit guy is staying open when everybody else is closing. I'm just curious, like, if you're in a high risk category, what are you doing coming here? And she said, well, I've worked at a bank for about 55 years. And since there wasn't any work to do, I've always wanted to write a book and I never did. And I spent the last month and a half writing a book that I've wanted to write my whole life, and I didn't back it up. And I don't want to wait 2 or 3 months to figure out if it's even possible to recover my data. I'd rather come down here and risk it. And that showed me something, is that like I have to respect that people are going to make some of their own choices regarding things, regarding risk and things like that. And I wound up recovering it, and she recovered her book. And then she actually wound up calling me because she broke the machine that I put it on, and she didn't back it up after I did that, which is actually pretty bad.
Yeah, but it makes a lot of sense. Like people usually use their home computers maybe in the morning, at night, but now they're like they're using their home computers from 9 to 5 now, 9 to 6. So like it feels like it almost feels like people are like turning their home computers to office computers, like you said. They don't have IT department from their job. The job's not giving them money. Maybe some jobs are not giving them money reimbursement for their computers, so they have to like go out and handyman their own stuff. And it feels like businesses like you are crucial right now, even more crucial than they were before the pandemic to be around. You know,
yeah, this is going to shift.
I didn't even know there was,
yeah.
I didn't even know there was rules to prevent you from opening. Yeah. That's crazy.
This is going to shift a lot in terms of what businesses stay open and what stay closed afterwards, and like what, because people are going to figure out, for instance, if you own a business and let's say you're paying $100,000 a month for real estate in New York City, and you didn't want to let your employees work from home because you figured that they were just going to play Yahoo Pool all day or play with their cat and not get anything done. But then you're forced to stay home by the city. So now you're actually forced, like my kitty, you're forced to figure out how to make stay-at-home work. Hey, you're forced to figure out how to make stay-at-home work. So now you're required to come up with a way to manage people from home. You're required to figure out, how do I get people to be productive? Because I have to pay these people whether they show up to work or not. Even if I lay them off, I have to pay their unemployment, which is going to be 60 or 70% of their salary for a few weeks. So I might as well figure out how to get some work out of them, because I got to pay them anyway, even if I fire them or lay them off. So now you're forced to come up with a way to make them work from home. So if you can get 70% of your staff to work from home successfully, they don't have to come to the office. That means that maybe you can deal with 60 or 70% less office space. So why would you pay $100,000 a month for an office when you can now pay $30,000 or $40,000 for a month for an office? Like, this is going to completely change the way we do business. And I know you were talking about schools earlier, and like just how insane it was that we wanted to reopen schools. I mean, I don't know a single person that can tell me that they enjoyed their K through 12 school days. Like, most of the kids that I know said this feels like a prison. You know, there's this is one of the few places that you're going to be where you're not arrested, but there's bars on the window and there's a security guard at the front door that says you're not allowed to leave, and someone else is allowed to tell you when you can and cannot go to the fucking bathroom. It's
plus the global pandemic. You know, like, plus the rules of a global pandemic. Kids like we said, kids are not going to follow that at all. So math teachers are going to get sick. You know, it's just like.
But we are talking about people working from home. But one of the things that we got to think about that a lot of people have not thought about at all when we're talking about working from home is the psychological burden of having a place of respite and peace turn into a place where now you're going to be experiencing work stress. So, you know, what are your thoughts on that kind of balance?
Well, in Europe, I know that there are if a company has you working from home, they have to reimburse you for a certain section of your rent. And I'm kind of curious if that's going to wind up leading to people deciding to come up with their own office space. Because I used to work from home all the time before I could afford to have a space that I worked out of in 2011. So for 3 years, I did everything from home. And the moment I was able to stop that, I swore I'm not staying at the office overnight. I'm not. I don't care if I have to go home, sleep 2 hours, and then ride my bike back to work. I'd rather do that just so that I have the mental rest of knowing I left work, I went to a place where there's no work, and then I go back to it. I do kind of wonder if it's going to mess with people's work-life balance even more than it is right now, if people are going to be stuck working and living in the same place constantly. You know, there's no real barrier there. There's no real, I'm exiting work, I'm entering my home where there's no work anymore.
It feels like I live in a biodome, just living and working and shitting where I live, you know, like, and for parents is even more of a whammy. Like, parents have to homeschool and work at the same time. It's just like, it feels like you're in a little spaceship going in outer space. It feels very claustrophobic. And then you're right. Like, that I love the work and life balance, to be able to go to there and work and come back. You know, it's just the boundaries in life are really great, and I feel all of those are just falling apart right now when it comes to coronavirus.
Yeah. Speaking of boundaries, somebody is now using their repair shop as a place to try to erase 4 months of doing nothing all in one day. So we've got people in the chat saying, "Hey, Louis looks like he's dead," and the first thing I thought was, well, Louis tried to do 4 months of training in one day. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so we got tired of the whole no gym thing, and like I was doing calisthenics in the park and other stuff, but it's not the same. I miss having a gym, and I have this new place that I moved into,
a trainer.
and and a trainer, and I have this new place that I moved into, and the back section of it is not. We haven't figured out what to do with it yet. We're going to add stuff, and since it's been 3 or 4 months without a gym, and reopening is not happening anytime soon, we figured why not, just find some stuff on Craigslist and make our own gym. And so we've been looking for the past like 2 months, and every time we find something, by the time like Dan will find it on his phone, by the time he gets to a computer, someone already bought it because these goblins just keep stealing he kills them like gain stealing goblins who are constantly like sitting on their computer, and the moment it shows up on Craigslist, immediately snatching it up and buying it before everybody else can. So we bought a bunch of gym equipment, and after hours we take turns, using it, clean it, and then I tried to. Yeah, I've never gone 4 months in my life without lifting weights. Like I've gone maybe a week because I was traveling, but since I was 17, I've never gone more than a week without lifting. And I went. Yeah, I didn't lift for the end of March, April, May, or June. And then yesterday I realized how weak I am, and that was kind of sad. Because like I went, last time I went to do overhead press, I could do 135 for like 5 to 7 reps. And then I went to lift 135, and it's like, okay, now wait, I'm done? Really?
Yep. Pack it up. So so people say that you look like you're dead. How close do you feel to the way people think you
said
look?
that so casually.
No, because the thing is, like, I don't want to roast Mr. Rossmann, our dear guest who donated his time to appear on our show, to be like, yeah, so you probably should have consulted the trainer about, hey, how should I go about jumping back into this after 17, 18 weeks off? Hey, what kind of pace should I be going at? Nope. I just got a picture of a bunch of fucking iron, and I'm like, man, he's gonna hate life for like 4 days straight.
Yeah, that was something. But it's yeah. I also heard that certain gyms may have privately reopened, if you know what I mean, that without publicly reopening prior to announcing.
No, actually, right. As a matter of fact, the gym that I normally work with you in. They are currently they're technically open, but trainers are not allowed to work out there. They're not allowed to shower. You can't use the water fountains.
Aaron says Chromo's gym is open.
You can't hang out in the trainer's room.
Andrew Chromo's gym is open.
Yeah, you have to schedule a time slot with your client ahead of time, but your client is not allowed to do any cardio. So it's open, but I don't know.
Yeah, your client has to wear a mask over the face and the mouth and the nose. Like I get working out by yourself and like in your own space and not wearing it. I get wearing a mask at work. I do, but I don't understand how like you try to deadlift 300 pounds with a mask over your face and your nose. I don't get that at all. Like that's. I went running outside and I forgot to take the thing off once, and it's like, oh my God, this is awful. And like I take the mask off my face, and then since there's nobody around, I go for my run, and it's there I can do it. I don't know how you're supposed to exercise with a mask on.
Yeah, and it's even more fucked up when you now
runs with a mask for about 2 weeks. I did trail runs with a mask for 2 weeks. For a lot of times, it was going up about 200 feet elevation with the steps. It's going straight up the steps with the mask on. I did it for 2 weeks, and after a while, I saw no one was bothering me. I just stopped wearing it because it was awful. But I tried it for a couple of weeks.
But you know what? Nobody's talking about the fact that now you're forced to smell your own breath all day. Like, why is nobody talking about that?
But training with a mask
caused me to brush my teeth more.
High altitude training running. Like, when you
I have a thing of mouthwash at work. I have a mouthwash at work. No, really, it actually it makes me much more cognizant of it. Like
5,000
after I
feet
eat,
above sea level.
After you eat,
yeah, after I eat, I wash my face and then I brush my teeth every single time now, because if I'm wearing that thing and I'm smelling myself, I better smell damn good. Like I'm getting a taste of what other people can tell, and it's awful. It's kind of like karma.
Yeah, we're heading into a new world order where there's no more halitosis.
It's also, I think the mask resurgence is going to give the butterfaces of the world a new lease on life, or at least on dating.
Yeah, when everybody's looking like Mortal Kombat characters, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been loving the masks. I've been loving looking like I'm about to rob people all the time. You know, like it feels pretty dope. I mean,
I think I've worn a mask once during this whole thing because I'm antisocial and I never leave my house.
The sad thing about the entire mask situation that I've realized is that on one side of this entire thing, I have people saying, you're a piece of shit. I can't believe you stayed open. How dare you, blah, blah, blah. Regardless of the fact that we spend, you know, like a constant time all day cleaning shit, that we've redone the entire store to have people far apart from each other, that everybody's wearing a mask. You're just evil for opening in any way, shape, or form. And on the other side of the spectrum, I have people commenting like 20, 30 times a day going, you idiot, why are you wearing a mask? As if I'm not in a city that had over 20,000 corona deaths in a space with 14 employees and 3 to 5 customers all day. And it just like, they'll say like, why are you wearing it? So I just started doing this thing where I copy and paste this list. It's about 69 or 70 studies, like all legit studies that go over how even wearing this little piece of shit cloth mask, if everybody's wearing it, helps stop transmission. And nobody cares. And it's just, it kind of makes me sad that I either speak to, most of the people I speak to are on one side or the other. Like, you're evil that you opened, lock yourself in your closet, or why are you even wearing a mask? I don't think there's anything wrong. There's nothing wrong at all. It's like you're a doctor, like I'm going to listen to you.
It's actually a very rude psychological study that came out a few days ago. It's pretty rude and disrespectful, but it said that how people with masks have lower cognitive abilities. People who don't like masks, people who are like adamant about not wearing a mask, they're going out there and putting their panties over their face. Those kind of people have lower cognitive ability when it comes to like processing, because this is a crisis right now. So you have to process a lot of things. You have to like pretty much rub your belly and tap your head at the same time. And that's pretty tough for a lot of people. So rather than like just stay home and just be away from people, they just go out there and breathe in people's face to rather be acted out. And it was an interesting study that came out. And
because a lot of people see it. A lot of people see it as a personal affront to their rights. It's about my rights, but it's like we got a virus that is trying to use your body to replicate, and it doesn't care if your body stops functioning. So you have all of these people that are like, it's about my rights, my rights, my rights. Put it in this like,
I got you, Sufficious.
I agree with people who say this is about my rights and my rights are important. And I'm not saying that I think masks should be mandated by law. That doesn't mean that I'm not sad that as a country, we can't just be on the same page on any fucking issue. Like, other countries are able to be on the same page on an issue. And even if they don't have the best way of tackling it, at the very least, they're all doing it via a specific strategy. We don't have that for virtually anything. And the fact that this has become like a political thing, like someone said, you know, Cuomo got nursing homes wrong and now he's saying wear a mask. Why are you listening to that? It's like, yeah, but if Cuomo said don't drink water with lead in it, I hate Cuomo. I didn't vote for him. I voted for Larry Sharpe. I think Cuomo's I think that he thinks he's a dictator. But he can also say something and be correct when he says this specific thing. I'm not just going to be a kid and say, I don't like him and he told me to do something, therefore I will not do it. Like that to me is dumb. And it's just like, you know,
there was one thing that Trump said that I actually agreed with wholeheartedly. And he said at the very beginning of this whole coronavirus thing that we need to treat it like a war, like we're going to war against an unseen foe. And the thing is that if the United States went to war with like China or Russia, then you would see most of the country coming together to unify towards one thing, which would pretty much be survival at that point, because when you talk about nuclear powers, you get people pressing the button and then there goes the human race, right? But if we treated the virus the way that Trump said in the beginning, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but you know, if we actually approach the coronavirus issue with what he said originally at the beginning of the pandemic, is to treat it like we're at war against the virus and then we all united against it, we might already be past the lockdowns by now.
I thought we were going to be past the lockdown. I thought we were going to be open by August. And
I thought it was going to be 3 weeks, and that was it.
I knew that the moment the lockdown thing started, that was not going to end for a while. But when I think about what you said,
why do you say that?
I don't think we don't have. How do I put this? As a country, when have we gone into something serious and then had a specific plan for how we're going to get out of it? So here's what we're going to do to fit with the war on drugs. Here's what we're going to do with the war on poverty. Here's what we're going to do with the war on terror. Here's what we're going to do in the war in Afghanistan. Like, how much stuff do we do where we actually say we're going to enter at this date and leave at this date? Like for most of these things that I've named, we don't even know when we won. Like there's no metric that says, here is when we've won and we're leaving. And with coronavirus, when it comes to lockdowns, what were they supposed to accomplish? But this is another reason that there's a bunch of public distrust with masks, and I understand that. So was it supposed to be flatten the curve so that hospitals don't get overwhelmed? Was it supposed to be once there's not going to be any transmission or new deaths ever? Was it supposed to be once a vaccine is developed? Like, what is the lockdown supposed to accomplish? And it seemed like it started with flatten the curve and then ended with, well, we don't want to see cases go up ever, and that's why we're just going to keep this until a boiling point occurs. And I think the boiling point,
stock market started fucking up, so like we had to open everything up. That's what I think. That's what happened.
But the stock market, in certain ways, even before we opened, like going into May, there were, and the end of May, there were many stocks then that were higher than they were now. And in New York City, restaurants
March and April, it was a nightmare over there.
Yeah. Like, because there were stocks that I have where in May they were doing better than they are right now. But the thing is that we didn't really have this is when we're going to be done. This is when once we've hit this specific metric, we're going to be fully out of lockdown. Some states have things where they say, once we've met these certain metrics, then we will do these phases of reopening. But it wasn't clear from the very beginning. A lot of that was developed like a month or so in. So I knew that once this started that it was going to last. I believed it was going to last for quite a while. And I don't see how we get out of this anytime soon, because we don't have this.
I knew it was a bad sign when China was building hospitals from scratch in the beginning. When they finally took it seriously, while we were finally taking it seriously, we were getting masks for nurses and doctors. I just saw the contrast of
they were building the hospitals in December. They were building them in December. And once they started arresting the doctors that were letting people know that something is brewing, and they arrested that doctor that became like the first professional death,
crazy,
right?
Yeah.
That's when I knew that it was going to be a big fucking problem. And that's when I started really paying attention to a lot of the trends.
Yeah, I'm really curious how this is going to end. And one of the things that I hope comes out of it is certain areas of change. So if you're forced to change the way you do things, can you now come up with a better way to do it? Like when it comes to public school hasn't changed for 150 years for the most part. Like most of it is the same stuff. You have 30 people sitting at desks, a bell rings, somebody writes a bunch of stuff.
Oh no.
Yeah, like when I was in kindergarten, you had 30 kids. By the time I got to high school, you had classes with 40 to 50 people in it. Yeah. Yep. It gets more and more ridiculous. But like the whole idea of having this amount of people sitting in a room in front of a teacher, it's like, and then just regurgitate you a bunch of facts without giving you all the context, and trying to make it interesting and have you memorize it for a test. That we've been doing that for a really long time, and I was really hoping that this would be an opportunity to come up with a better way to teach kids so that we don't go back to that, because that I don't think it is as effective as it should be, and I don't think it doesn't. I don't think it makes kids happy. Like I remember I think it was in Sparta where they said there shall be compulsory education and pupils shall be regarded as belonging to the state rather than to their parents. I think that was Plato in Sparta. Like we were still using that system. And it would be nice to have
when people get kicked in the chest, like in the bottomless pits.
Yeah,
300. This is Sparta.
Yeah, there was a study that I read a few years back. Like you had mentioned, how much does it suck that parents now have to teach their kids? But like the kids were.
But that's the parents' job. You made.
But the thing is, parents
teach them.
Well, I mean,
but parents are not going to know advanced algebra. Like they're not going to know like advanced calculus. They're not. The average parent's not going to know.
If your parents survive without knowing advanced algebra, then you'll live without that shit too. You know what I'm saying? like if you really need that shit, you know what I'm saying? You go to some higher fucking education or whatever. Where they'll teach you some liberal arts bullshit about 5,000 vendors and all that stuff.
I just feel so weird. I just so weird, like bending down to my kid and saying, "You know what? You don't need to know that shit. You need to know how to do taxes." I just feel like I'm miseducating them. That's because of my own indoctrination of the school and math, science. But I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's a joke that you can go to school for 13 years and come out of it with really very little idea of how to do something that people will pay you for it. Like that. That's it was designed to produce factory workers and soldiers, and we don't need factory workers and as much, nor do we need we don't need a school environment to create that. And when it comes to people, like our school system is so bad. I think it was Brian Ray that did a study on this. It was something like kids score who are homeschooled consistently score 15 or 30 points, percentage points above the national average, which means that uneducated. I shouldn't say uneducated. I should say untrained educators are able to do a better job than people who are trained to do this. And but nobody wants to change anything, because to change anything, you have to come up with a new system from scratch, and nobody's going to want to do that unless they're forced to. But here we have an opportunity to create that real change. Let's come up with a better way to teach children. We don't send. I wouldn't even say don't send them back because of Corona. I would say don't send them back because this system is ridiculously obsolete, and we should just be flipping the whole table and coming up with a new one. I learned more with my grandma got me this toy, and I think from when I was 2 years old for Christmas, Little Smart Alphabet Desk. It was like this piece of shit VTech computer. You can buy for like $40 at Toys R Us. I learned more from that than I did in first grade and kindergarten. I learned all sorts of stuff on how to on the alphabet, how to read, how to understand words. From a toy that I was playing with myself.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like my grandmother would like sign up for the encyclopedia. I get volumes every month, I would get the World on the Mac. Then eventually I got Earthlink, dial up, and the rest was history. I kind of like
went through my own route. Even though she got mad, those some heavy ass books.
No. My grandfather did, but I beat him up and I got kicked out. But
I knew those books were being put to good use somehow.
Yeah, but I feel like I got most of I feel like what you know me as Dr. Virginia is because of that other stuff, not because of school, not because of I don't even, I don't know. It's the same,
Yeah,
I wish that I would have learned something from school
in their head that you need to sit for 7 hours a day in front of some underpaid schmo that hates their life and hates the kids. That is not the only way to learn. YouTube has been showing us that there are different ways to learn. There's so many ways to have knowledge be put into your brain that is communicable and applicable. I think that, as I think Louis has been alluding to, there are other ways to do education, and it doesn't have to be the public school system that we've all been subjected to generation after generation.
Yeah, it's like there's no incentive to change it because the person who changes it has to come up with a new one. There's teachers unions that are not going to want to have some sort of revolutionary change because it's a job to protect. There's parents who don't want revolutionary change there because that's a daycare. Parents need to work. They need to make money from 9 to 5, and the school is a place not just for so much for learning. It's also take care of my kids so that I can earn a living. There's a lot of factors that are going to contribute to people not wanting this to change, but it should. People talk about how we need better education and improve our schools, but in many parts of the country, you're spending $14,000 to $16,000 a year per student. In New York City, we're spending over $22,000 a year per student. If for that amount of money, if you can't figure out how to give someone an education after putting over $200,000 to $300,000 into a kid for 13 years, and they're barely qualified to make minimum wage, I don't think adding 10 or 20% to the budget there is really going to change.
Give every kid a MacBook Pro with all the fixing.
It sounds good. Giving teachers, I think that there are teachers that are underpaid. Give the teachers more, but I don't think giving a teacher a 10 or 20% raise, even 30%, is going to fix that system. I don't think giving them better textbooks is going to fix that system.
It's broke.
No, it's like you're getting a nicer buggy for your horse and buggy. Take an electric rail train. Stop. You don't need a fancier wheels or nicer rims on your horse and buggy. And I was really hoping that coronavirus.
Says who? I need nicer rims.
You need a non-German car, but that's another debate for another day.
Oh.
Yeah, Mr. Rhodes doesn't have a German car, so maybe you guys could be
I drive American.
I make fun of money for buying a German car. The type that you have to lease because if you own it for more than 3 or 4 years, the maintenance will kill you.
Hell yeah. Lease for the win, motherfucker.
But we gotta I think we had this was a good convo, like .tv genius.
Yeah, we definitely got to have you back on.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was good being here. Thank you for having me on your show and taking the time.
This is live. Yeah.
I knew this was going to be a really entertaining thing. I want to thank the Rossmann Army, the Rossmann gang, for coming through and like really making
some
that
guy
Twitch
gave me
chat
tech advice
live.
to my computer to help with my bitrate.
Yeah, looks like we have 105 people watching. That's awesome.
Yeah, it went up to like 130 at one point. So, you guys you made it, and a lot of you guys were saying a lot of interesting things. I just couldn't catch up to all of you. That's why I wanted to shout out everybody in the Twitch chat. Like you guys you guys really made this a very enjoyable stream tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Louis, for coming tonight. Hopefully, have you soon.
Thank you for having me.
And I'll be back in New York City with right now. I'm in the middle of the Catskills and like in a mountain range. That's why I look like I'm pixelated, like Game Boy, color Game Boy right now. So.
Damn, you can't even get the Game Boy Advance level.
So, you got to escape New York City, and I'm stuck here.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Well, you almost got eaten by a bear, so it all evens out.
Yeah. Jesse needs to jump at people in love. Hello?
Are we back?
What?
Are we
back?
back?
We're back. About people's relationships in public for some reason. We don't want to do that, but I think this is really interesting because a lot of people are going that way.
To our cover story, Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith got candid on Red Table Talk, confirming that Jada had a relationship with another man when the duo was separated. Take a look.
One of Hollywood's most beloved couples, Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, addressing together a shocking chapter of their marriage.
So that's what we're going to start with. This is a very personal journey.
Yeah.
That became very public.
In this episode of Red Table Talk, a series hosted by Pinkett Smith, known for its candid conversations, she let her husband ask the tough questions.
So what happened, Jada?
Following weeks of speculation, the superstars confirming that while the two were briefly separated, Jada entered a relationship with singer August Alsina.
I think you need to say clearly what happened.
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with August. That's what I said.
An entanglement?
Yes. Yes.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship.
The 51-year-old actor opening up about the extramarital romance.
I wasn't sure I was ever going to speak to you again.
I know.
Yeah, the fact that I'm speaking to you again is a miracle.
When couples get to the point where they are done with their marriage, the way Will and Jada were with theirs, and they come back together, the key thing is to work on recreating that connection. That connection is the key to any marriage.
The Smiths have long been considered an unshakable couple, expressing their love and devotion consistently throughout the years. The two stars reflecting on their journey as a couple.
Knocking boots.
There's a real power in the just knowing somebody's riding with you no matter what.
Yeah.
And you really can't know that
until you go
through some stuff.
The fact that Will and Jada could talk about what they went through publicly really just shows how solid their marriage is.
And emphasizing the love they have is still strong, despite Jada's relationship during their marriage.
We have really gotten to that new place of unconditional love.
And according to Jada, her relationship with August began when he was having a lot of health problems, and she wanted to heal him, and she herself felt broken. And
so I got a lot to say. All right, I got a lot to say.
Because I feel like people are really. I feel like people are really ragging on Will. I don't think it's necessary, even though it's public celebrity stuff. We mind our business, but you know.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about this. Because we talked about this in the last production meeting we had last week. I got a lot to say about this on two ends. First of all, the thing that I'm seeing is that most of America doesn't give a shit about this. Most of the things that I'm seeing a lot of black people that are destroying Will and destroying Jada, and they've put a lot of energy into memes, and they're doing, everybody is Dr. Phil now. They're diagnosing people's relationships based upon, their own traumas in their life, and they just swear that they know what's going on in somebody else's bedroom. They went from protesting for justice for people who have been harmed by the power structure, and then their attention is almost like they got some sort of weird ass ADD where all of a sudden you don't care about the fact that Breonna Taylor's killers are still free. You forgot all about that because you got a chance to get in somebody else's ass about their relationship. So I'm going to school some people on something when it comes to Will and Jada. All right. Will and Jada have been talking for a long time about how they do not have a conventional monogamous relationship. They've been saying it for years. We've had all different kinds of rumors about Will having sex with other men. We've seen
I'm the same waffles. I'm the same waffles.
Yeah, like we've seen a whole lot of shit going on with them, right? So one of the things that I noticed is that we live in a system where everybody's conditioned to believe that monogamy is the only relationship model that exists. I can tell you from experience, today being the day after the 8th anniversary with my second partner. Yes, I have two partners. The three of us live together. We all know about each other, blah, blah, blah. The three of us have been together now 8 years in a day, and we've made it work. And we all love each other and all of that stuff that people tell you is not possible. So you have all of these people who believe that monogamy is the only way to go. And they're making fun of Will and they're making fun of Jada, and they don't know shit about shit. You don't understand anything that's going on in their life. Oh, but they're talking about entanglements and they're talking about a separation. They're not going to tell you everything that's going on because, as you've already heard in the news piece, Jada said that it was a very personal situation that became public, and now they're forced to deal with it. Like nobody wants to talk about what's going on in their bedroom, even when everything is great. Imagine if you were living a lifestyle that other people don't respect, and because they were told by their local priest or by a Disney film about happily ever after, and monogamy is the only way. Everybody's got some shit to say. But one of the things that I know is a lot of these people running their fucking mouths are either cheating on their partner, have been cheated on, or wish they could be cheating. Because they believe, well, I can only do this one-on-one thing. And the only way I can do what I need to do is to go behind somebody's back dishonestly. So I just feel like a lot of people in a weird way are showing to me that they have they've got this envy that the two of them can be that secure with each other. Definitely. That even if there is somebody on the outside, but that main bond still stays intact. And a lot of people know that their relationship is over the minute that they see their partner looked at somebody else. So is this really an issue where Will and Jada deserve to be roasted? Or is it that you can't even handle human nature? You can't handle your partner even looking in somebody else's direction let alone actually exploring a bond with somebody that's not you. So yeah, I got a lot to say about that.
I mean, I feel like when I first, even I didn't realize, I knew the criticism was going to come in that way, but I just thought what they did was I don't feel it wasn't necessary, but I feel it was necessary because the businesses got out there for them to be super celebrities. But at the same time, I don't feel it's going to change anything for them. Like, while everyone is dogging them and like forcing their own insecurities on Will and Jada, they're going to keep being superstars and bungee jumping over Grand Canyon, you know, because they're secure in their ways. That's why they were able to do that million viral video, because they're that secure in their relationship. Whatever is going on, we don't know, but they're secure enough to do it out there. So it's this perspective, you know, while I can't, my insecurities or jealousy, I can't force that on Will and Jada. You know, they're doing something that's, you know, and even though I have certain beliefs about monogamy, but I can't force that on them. They're doing something that's way more. They're doing something that's theirs, and they're able to talk to it. Most people, a lot of people don't. They ought to be beating each other up, domestic violence, cheating, all this different stuff. And we've seen a couple actually talk through their stuff. A black couple talk through their stuff. It's pretty admirable.
And nobody's paying attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's actually getting the real message. There's a real lesson in them sitting at that table, looking each other directly in the fucking face, even though some of it's staged, because they've already probably talked this shit to death. But now they're forced to have this conversation in front of the entire world, when again they've been living this lifestyle probably since the beginning of their relationship. You know, they've been together over 20 years. Now they're talking about it again, and it's not what they wanted to be talking about. A lot of people say, well, why do we even care? Like, people in the chat are saying, like, why do we even care about what they're doing in their marriage? That's why they kept it private. But somebody got fucking salty because he was no longer in the picture, and he still wanted to be eating some of that Jada poontang, and then he's leaking it to the public, and it's like, nigga, that's why you're not around no more. Because when you get fucking all up in your fucking feelings, now you've got, the thing is, we don't know what kind of fallout there's going to be from them being outed. Because it used to be back in the day, if you were homosexual, you would always pretend to be straight because you didn't want to lose opportunities. Like the non-monogamous relationship is like one of the last socially acceptable ways to discriminate against people. So what kind of opportunities does Jada now stand to lose, or even Will? Because people are not even going at Jada. They're going at Will. And Will didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong.
No,
he's actually
standing with Jada. He's actually Jada's the one actually she's the one that I feel got violated in the situation, because August exposed everything, and Will's actually going in and say, I'm with you, Jada. Even though this has happened, I'm still standing by your side. But people don't see that at all. They see a whole different situation.
It reminds me of revenge porn. Are we not together? So I'm going to release a whole bunch of confidential shit that was supposed to be private between us to try to fuck with your life. Well, that's why you're not in the picture no more, because you're fucking weak. That's some weak ass shit.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with that. I really want to go to Global Earth News and see this going on. Unless someone else is saying stuff, Jesse can play some Global Earth News.
Yeah, that cutscene.
Yes,
that is very redundant. It's very long. I'd never get over that shit. Planetary global Earth. I'm gonna add another word, another synonym to that to Earth. I'm gonna add another one. I'll look for it next week.
Yeah, let's do it. So we're Americans. We're so self-centered. We got to see what's going on in the world right now. if Jesse plays this funny video of these Japanese theme park executives on the roller coaster, they'll get to have fun while we get to struggle with stuff. Play this clip right here. Allegedly, they're supposed to not scream while they're like on the roller coaster.
He can't even hold that mask on his face. Why does it look like you're in a business meeting?
They're supposed to be quiet. Shh, shh, shh. Oh, like that is so stressful.
Is this why their birth rates are so low? Because they look completely unfazed by shit that's supposed to be exciting.
What's happening? You're not gonna scream? Oh no. I know. How can you not scream on a roller? You might take a shit on yourself by accident doing that. Do it, bro. Scream inside your heart.
Yeah, they definitely would be good at playing poker. So fuck. What is that?
I mean, desperate times calls for desperate measures. You know, that's what's going on.
Oh my god.
So
I got nothing. Like they do. They got nothing. I got nothing. They got nothing. This is a whole lot of nothing right there.
They just made a roller coaster something I don't give a shit about anymore. You know, this like, well, whatever. You know.
It almost makes roller coasters look more bullshit than we thought they did. It's like other people screaming, and then these guys are like pulling the wool from our eyes. Like, gotcha. Yeah. This roller coaster really wasn't shit to begin with. Yeah, you know, you're screaming because you believe that you're supposed to scream, but this really ain't shit.
Keep your mask on the roller coaster. That's wild.
Magic Blue Melon said that they don't scream on roller coasters and they don't know how people do.
He screams in. That sounds like some G Gundam. Scream in my heart. That's like some G Gundam dork stuff.
Oh hell yeah! That is some Inuyasha shit right there. Inuyasha, I scream in my heart.
Oh god, I'm sorry.
So go, baby! Scream in your heart, Inuyasha.
So this is the end. So this is the end of the show. We had a really good show with Louis. It was really good. It was a lot of fun, man. So word out on the street in Beirut, driving along Beirut is pretty crazy. It's like traffic lights are out a lot of times. So if you think you're driving in Boston or New York or LA is bad, you should watch this video right here. Jesse pulls up this end of show video right here. This is a wild video.
By the way, we'll be on at 10 p.m. We're on at 10 p.m. again on Thursday.
This is supposed to be a filmmaker, and he's breaking the law too. So watch this.
What the fuck? Yeah, I'm definitely getting yanked out the car and tased for doing shit like that. Yo, this guy is a sociopath, son.
Yo,
what's happening here?
Oh,
where did you get this video from? Banned from TV?
Please do not do this. Someone said Jersey barriers have made their way around the world. Letterneck said Jersey barriers have made their way around that. This is where all the Jersey drivers go when they die. They go there.
Thank you for coming, Landry Pritchard, and keeping the YouTube chat live. But yeah, we're on at 10 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night. Normally we're on at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesdays, but we had a scheduling conflict, so we had the special 10 o'clock slot. We'll be back on next Tuesday at 8:30. In a couple of days, we'll be on at 10 p.m. I am Dr. Evil.
Masai Rhodes, and this is Black Power Magic Hour. No matter what you say, host 95, whatever you said earlier in the chat about whatever, it's awesome.